Drop the knife, Jaxie. Drop the fucking
Jackson,
knife.
I don't want to have to put a fucking bullet in your head, baby darling.
I do not want to have to put a silver bullet in your heart,
I do
my
not
love.
want to have to explode your fucking precious little head.
I would hate to do that.
If you've avoided bearing witness to the discussion around Chainsaw Man, you've been living under a rock. It's the newest, most successful property to come out of Shounen Jump, and everyone plus their dog is talking about it. The thing is hyped to be one of the best manga ever created, but in actuality, Chainsaw Man is one of the most basic stories ever written. There's little to no depth, but that's not a bad thing. Chainsaw Man revels in that space between summer blockbuster and gory horror slasher. The characters don't need any depth. Their goals are simple, and the situations that they find themselves in are extremely black and white. This is the kind of product that Chainsaw Man aspires to be. Take a simple premise and milk it for everything it's got. Go as deep as you can go into that shallow pond with the promise of treasure at the bottom. And you know what? It does it well. Chainsaw Man is basic, but inspired and bombastic. In the same way that Kill Bill is just a revenge story, or Pulp Fiction is just a crime drama, Chainsaw Man is just a Super Sentai warrior who wants to cop a feel. Whether they know it or not, that's why everyone loves it. Chainsaw Man isn't the second coming of Evangelion, it's the second coming of Gurren Lagann. Set in a world where devils are real, DENJI is a teenage boy deep in debt to the mob. He lives in a shed in the woods and is sold body part after body part to try to make up his deceased father's gambling debt. The only thing that DENJI has in the world that means anything to him is his little chainsaw devil dog Pochita, who he uses as a weapon to exterminate devils for the Yakuza. After a devil hunt gone wrong, the Yakuza he owes money to sells their soul to the zombie devil, who wants revenge for DENJI's devil hunting habits. The Yakuza kill DENJI, and Pochita brings him back to life by acting as his heart and reforming his body. DENJI in turn develops the ability to pull a string on his chest, transforming him into Chainsaw Man. As you might have already surmised, this means he sprouts chainsaws from his body. But being half-gardening appliance, people inevitably want to kill our sympathetic protagonist. When government-sanctioned devil hunters arrive on the scene, their leader, a woman named Makima, adopts DENJI in the same way one might adopt a dog. Overwhelmed at the prospect of living a normal life and promised your average breakfast every day, DENJI is absolutely enamored with both the concept and this mysterious woman. So therein lies the first problem viewers might run into with Chainsaw Man. What's the hook? It sounds like our protagonist has everything he wants. He goes off to live the good life. So where is the conflict? As much as I love Chainsaw Man, I admit that this is actually something that it could have done better. You don't get a single peep about the overarching threat until the 5th episode. For a show about a man who can turn himself into a walking blender, that's extremely slow pacing. So why is that? Chainsaw Man takes the first few episodes to set up the in-universe rules. Things like devils are as strong as their concepts are feared. Devil hunters make contracts with devils to gain superpowers, and dead bodies can get possessed by devils to make fiends. It's not until the 5th episode that we learn that the most feared devil of them all is the Gun Devil, giving our cast a big bad of sorts and a direction for the story to be heading. This could have been mitigated completely by moving the lore dump about the Gun Devil from the 5th episode to the 1st. I feel like some of you would complain that that wouldn't keep with the manga's pacing, but Studio Mappa obviously has no interest in adapting the manga directly, since they cut out the Muscle Devil, which would have been a fight in episode 2. So what about the Gun Devil gives the story so much needed direction? When the Gun Devil attacked Japan for 26 seconds, it killed 57,000 people. Several of the main characters are affected by this tragedy and live with a chip on their shoulder, trying to get strong enough to fight the thing and hopefully kill it. But there is one problem. No one knows where it is. This is probably best explained by an aside. Have you ever watched Inuyasha?
You're so beautiful, but so tiny. It would be a first for me, but I'm certainly willing to give it a try.
Inuyasha is a show about a young girl named Kagome, who gets swept into a fantasy world gallivanting adventure in search of the many shards of the sacred Shikon jewel. When consumed, these shards can do all kinds of magical things, but mostly they give extra power to demons who consume them. The Gun Devil's flesh acts a lot like these shards. If a devil consumes Gun Devil flesh, it becomes more powerful. Smaller pieces of gun devil flesh are also attracted to one another and combine into a clump when close enough. Once the clump is big enough, it attracts to the main body to reform. Therein we have our main goal. Gather pieces of gun devil flesh. It's an absolutely bog-standard MacGuffin plot, but it's something to go on and helps drag the story forward. If you're unfamiliar, a MacGuffin is a narrative trope defined as an object or element in a story that drives the plot, but serves no other purpose. Famous MacGuffins are the briefcase full of money from Pulp Fiction, the Holy Grail, and the schematic plans to the Death Star. Taking 5 episodes to get to your MacGuffin is extremely slow. During the first few episodes, you wouldn't be incorrect to comment that overall the story seems aimless, but I think I know why that is. Weekly serialized content like this has a nasty habit of getting cancelled if their characters and world don't instantly resonate with readers. There is a bottomless well of manga who had 1 chapter published and were instantly cancelled due to lack of interest from consumers. It's likely that Chainsaw Man's author, Tatsuki Fujimoto, felt this might be the case with his new manga. If not him, then it could have been the publisher themselves, Shonen Jump. But what's strange is that in an anime adaptation you have the advantage of hindsight. Everything up to Denji getting adopted takes place in the manga's first chapter. The Gun Devil isn't mentioned until the 12th chapter, meaning that you could have been reading the manga for 3 months before you ever actually got to the MacGuffin. For context, Naruto tells you in the first chapter he wants to be Hokage. In Fullmetal Alchemist, you learn Ed and Al want the Philosopher's Stone to regain their original bodies in the second chapter. In Berserk, we learn that Guts is looking for the 5 members of the God Hand in the first chapter. What do we know after the first episode of Chainsaw Man that covers the whole first chapter? We know that Denji is a horny teenager who has the world's most painful superpower. He's only in the devil hunting business because he wants to appease Makima, and eventually cop a feel. Denji never went to school and probably didn't even know the Gun Devil existed. He's illiterate, rude, and has some of the most basic goals that a human being can have. And that's kind of why he's likable. It's an interesting take on the fish out of water character. Characters around Denji can explain anything to him, and he can be completely ignorant of it because of the environment in which he grew up. Furthermore, in a world where the stakes are constantly live or die, Denji will take the time to act as an audience surrogate and enjoy the small things about a scenario. Thankfully, Studio Mappa noticed this character trait and took time to make the world of Chainsaw Man very pleasing to look at. Though not as pleasing as the promotional material would have you believe. Some scenes almost remind me of a Makoto Shinkai movie. The use of highlights and secondary animation really put some older anime from 20 years ago to absolute shame. Of course, it's a mixed bag. For every scene that looks like it was hand animated by a caring father, there's a combat scene where it's almost as if 2 teams, one for the background and one for the characters, are fighting amongst one another for the frame rate. Even then, it only gets worse when a scene uses CG rendered models. Mappa is back in force with its use of 3D to save time animating. They did it with Attack on Titan, and I imagine it must be part of their style now. Needless to say, it's immersion breaking, and the CG models are rendered almost exclusively at a different frame rate than their 2D counterparts. This makes several scenes feel disjointed and crude. Take this scene, for instance, where Denji is fighting the Leech Devil. You can see the 3D environment slide under Denji's shoes, making it look like he's skating across ice. This no doubt was implemented because it saved development time, but there really is no excuse for the rendering difference of the frame rates. CG can look good in anime. Hoseki no Kuni proved that, but not when fundamentals of animation clash so hard, like in this example. I guess that's as good of a segue as any to talk about how I feel about the music as well. If you watched my review of Ping Pong the Animation, you know how much I love the work of Chainsaw Man composer Kensuke Ushio. In my opinion, his music has brought life to every show he's ever touched. He's the man who composed the Devilman Crybaby soundtrack, a soundtrack that people still talk about to this day. But in Chainsaw Man, this just feels like Ushio's B-sides, basic guitar power chords over glitchy industrial techno beats completely lacking those Ushio hooks. But if it's not guitar, it's keyboard riffs pushing against strung-out synths that sound like lo-fi beats to chill and do homework to. I swear to God the lo-fi girl is killing music, I refuse to believe otherwise. Before the anime for Chainsaw Man released, there were several manga music videos that had a very good handle on how music in Chainsaw Man should sound. Here's one of my favorite examples by the channel Seymour Manga on YouTube using the song Earth by Clowncore. I can only hope that the soundtrack gets better as the show progresses. As is, this sounds like songs made by an independent artist on YouTube. The most professional part of the audio in Chainsaw Man is the Foley work. The sound effects are extremely nice.
This is the property damage report. This verifies the disposal of the devil's bodies, while this form is from the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism. Stamp it here and over in this corner as well.
Footsteps through snow sound crunchy and realistic. Background sounds like the passing of cars and the ticking of clocks can be heard in every relevant situation, and even the smallest of details like the humming of an air conditioner were accounted for. This is one of the few parts of this adaptation where it cannot be debated that the anime has a leg up on the manga. The lead at MAPPA has been quoted as saying that if he gets his way, MAPPA will adapt Fujimoto's first manga, Fire Punch, as well. But after seeing what they've done with Chainsaw Man, I really hope that that doesn't end up being the case. MAPPA now has a history of sanitizing things that were enjoyable for their quirky, sketchy, or otherwise grungy style. If you weren't already aware, take a look at some of these manga and anime comparisons. I love Chainsaw Man as a manga. I check every day for a new chapter. But as an anime, this just isn't an honest adaptation. Artistically, this is about the most bland direction it could go. I'm sure I'm not alone in wishing Chainsaw Man had been given to Bones or Trigger, because what we ended up getting was a disappointing adaptation being held up by its source material. Chainsaw Man as an adaptation gets a 6 out of 10. It's fine, but you really need to look past how everything has been cleansed to the point of no return. Chainsaw Man the manga gets a 9 out of 10. Great.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
What about yourself? Do you like the Chainsaw Man anime more than the manga? Please tell me why in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Have an idea for what you'd like to see me review next? Leave it in the comments as well. Special thanks to our executive producers Anthony Wumbo, James Novak, John Foreman, and Zachary Coroner.